There comes a moment in every journey where you realize that peace isn't something that just happens to you. It's something you choose. It's not waiting somewhere at the end of your problems, hidden behind the next success, the next breakthrough, the next answered prayer. Peace is available right now, in the middle of uncertainty, in the middle of questions, in the middle of waiting if you're willing to reach for it. But most people don't. Most people wait for life to calm down before they calm down. They wait for everything to make sense before they breathe. They wait for the path to clear before they trust. But that's not how faith works. Faith invites you to choose peace before you understand, before you see the outcome, before everything falls into place. Every day you get to decide what voice you're going to listen to, the voice of fear or the voice of faith. Fear tells you, worry about every detail, stress over every possibility. Imagine the worst-case scenario. Faith tells you, relax, God is already ahead of you. What's meant for you will come in the right time, in the right way, and whichever voice you feed becomes the voice that leads. Peace isn't passive, it's intentional. It's you saying, I refuse to let anxiety run my life. I refuse to let overthinking steal my joy. I refuse to let fear speak louder than God's promises. And let's be honest, peace doesn't come naturally when life feels uncertain. It's easy to feel peaceful when everything is flowing smoothly. It's easy to trust when every door is opening, when every prayer seems to be answered quickly, when the path is clear and the signs feel obvious. But the real test of peace is when nothing is moving, when the doors stay closed, when the timing feels slow, when the answers are taking longer than you expected. That's when choosing peace becomes an act of faith, a declaration of trust, a spiritual discipline that reshapes you from the inside out. When you choose peace, you're not ignoring reality. You're surrendering to a higher reality. You're saying, God sees what I can't. God knows what I don't. God is working in ways I don't understand right now. And that shift changes everything. It doesn't mean the storm disappears, but it means the storm no longer controls you. It doesn't mean the uncertainty evaporates, but it means the uncertainty no longer dictates your emotional state. Think of how often stress steals moments that were meant to be enjoyed. How often you've let your mind run ahead of your life. How often you've let worry take up space that could have been filled with gratitude, clarity, or rest. And yet, most of the things you lost sleep over eventually resolved on their own. Most of the battles you feared never even materialized. Most of the things you predicted would go wrong never came close to happening. So why give fear so much power? Why let anxiety write the story when God is the one holding the pen? There is something powerful that happens when you decide that peace is not a reward, it's a lifestyle. You begin to move differently. You speak differently. You handle disappointments differently. Instead of panicking when something doesn't go your way, you pause and say, if it didn't happen, it wasn't meant for me. Instead of forcing outcomes, you breathe and say, if it's meant for me, it won't require breaking myself to achieve. Instead of comparing yourself to everyone else's progress, you relax into the rhythm of your own journey. Choosing peace doesn't mean you stop working toward your goals. It means you stop worrying about them. It means you show up, you give your best, you stay consistent, but you don't torment yourself with timelines. You don't try to outrun God's process. You don't carry burdens that were never yours to hold. You live with an inner stillness that whispers, everything that's meant for me is already on its way. And let me tell you something beautiful. When you live from peace, you start seeing things clearly. You make wiser decisions. You discern opportunities better. You connect with people more authentically. You become more aware of the quiet nudges that God gives to guide you. Peace sharpens you, strengthens you, anchors you. It turns you into someone who walks with calm confidence even when the storms around you rage. So today, choose peace. Choose it again tomorrow. Choose it again when life tests you, when delays frustrate you, when doubts whisper to you. Peace isn't a moment, it's a practice, it's a daily commitment, it's a spiritual stance. Because when you stand in peace, you stand in trust. And when you stand in trust, your life aligns with the flow of what God has already prepared for you. Relax. Peace is your power, and it leads you toward everything meant for you. It's a season in every journey where it feels like all you're doing is waiting, working, stretching, and hoping. Yet nothing seems to be moving. It feels like you're living in the in-between, standing somewhere between the promise and the fulfillment, with no clear sign of when things will finally break open. And it's in these seasons that people are tempted to quit, to question themselves, or to assume that God has forgotten them. But what you may not realize is that before every breakthrough, there is always a period of preparation. Before every blessing, there is always a shaping. Before God places something in your hands, He first prepares your heart, your character, and your capacity to handle it. We often want the blessing immediately, but we don't always consider what that blessing requires from us. We pray for bigger opportunities without realizing that bigger opportunities require bigger discipline. We ask for influence but forget that influence requires integrity. We want the dream, but the dream also demands emotional, spiritual, and sometimes even practical maturity. Preparation isn't punishment, it's protection. It's God making sure you don't sabotage the very thing you've been asking for. Think about this. If something arrives too early, it can be just as harmful as something arriving too late. A fruit picked before its time is hard and bitter. It can't be enjoyed the way it was meant to be. The same is true for destiny. If you step into something before you're ready, the weight of it can break you. You might mismanage it, you might lose it, you might become overwhelmed by it. So instead, God slows the process, not to frustrate you, but to strengthen you. In these seasons of waiting, there are lessons being woven into you quietly, steadily, purposefully. You're learning how to be patient. You're learning how to rely on faith rather than sight. You're learning how to endure pressure without breaking. You're learning how to stand firm when nothing seems to be changing. These are not small things. They are foundational qualities you will need when the blessing comes. Sometimes the preparation is hidden. You don't see the purpose behind the challenges, the disappointments, the delays, or the unanswered prayers. But just because you don't see it yet doesn't mean it's not happening. When a seed is underground, there is no evidence of growth on the surface. But beneath the soil, roots are forming, strength is developing, and the seed is becoming capable of supporting what will eventually grow above ground. Your life works the same way. Before God elevates you, He establishes you. Before He opens a door, He fortifies your character so you can walk through it with confidence instead of fear. Think back on times in your life when you weren't ready for something, even though you thought you were. Maybe you wanted a certain relationship, but emotionally you were still healing. Maybe you wanted the position of leadership, but internally you were still learning discipline. Maybe you wanted a dream to manifest, but spiritually you were still building the resilience you'd need to sustain it. When you look back, you realize that the waiting wasn't wasted. It was necessary. Every step, every setback, every slow season was shaping you in ways you couldn't see at the time. And that's the beauty of God's process. He doesn't just give you what you ask for. He prepares you to carry it well. He develops the version of you that can thrive in the next season, not crumble under it. If He's taking His time, it's because the blessing is big or the future is weighty, and He wants to make sure you can stand strong when you get there. He wants the blessing to last, not just arrive. People often think that waiting is passive, but real waiting, the kind that grows you, is active. It requires faith. It requires discipline. It requires choosing trust every day, even when you can't see progress. It's showing up, improving yourself, building your character, nurturing your gifts, and keeping your heart open to whatever direction God leads you. The preparation season is where your roots deepen. It's where you build the strength that the next level will require. So if it feels like nothing is happening right now, remind yourself, something is happening. You are being prepared. The blessing is being prepared. The timing is being prepared. The connections, the opportunities, the direction, all of it is aligning in ways you cannot yet see. And when the moment comes, when everything finally clicks into place, it will be clear why the wait was necessary. You will walk into that next season with the strength you didn't have before, with wisdom you didn't possess before, and with a capacity you couldn't have handled before. Relax. What's meant for you is already being prepared, and so are you. There are moments in life when a door closes so firmly, so suddenly, that it leaves you standing in confusion, wondering what went wrong. You replay the situation over and over, trying to understand what you could have done differently, what you should have seen coming, or why it felt like something slipped out of your hands just when you were starting to get a grip on it. In that moment, it feels like rejection. It feels like loss. It feels like failure. But with time, and with a little more spiritual maturity, you realize that some of those closed doors were not punishments, they were protection. They were God saying, not this one, not here, not now. We often think that if something ends, it means we weren't good enough for it, but maybe it simply wasn't good enough for the person you're becoming. Maybe that opportunity was too small for the greatness inside you. Maybe that relationship didn't have the capacity to carry the weight of your future. Maybe that path would have taken you somewhere you weren't designed to stay. And so in ways that don't always make sense to us, God intervenes. He moves people out of the way. He shifts situations. He blocks certain outcomes. Not because He's denying you, but because He's guiding you. There are doors that look perfect from the outside, beautiful, shiny, promising. But God sees what's behind them long before you do. He sees the details you can't see. He sees the heartbreak, the betrayal, the disappointment, the limitations that would have come later. And so instead of letting you walk into something that would harm you, He allows that door to close, even if it frustrates you in the moment. That's not rejection, that's mercy. Sometimes we're so focused on what we think we want that we don't realize how small our vision is. We pray for the job, but God knows it would have drained your spirit. We pray for the relationship, but God knows it would have dimmed your purpose. We pray for a path that looks easy, but God knows it would have kept you from growing. And while we wrestle with disappointment, He's already preparing a path that leads to something better, something that aligns with who we truly are, not who we're trying to force ourselves to be. Think of all the times you tried to push a door open that wouldn't budge. You gave it everything you had, time, effort, emotion, and it still wouldn't open. At the time, it felt unfair. But now, when you look back, aren't you grateful some of those things didn't work out? Aren't you thankful that certain people left when they did? Aren't you relieved that the opportunity you begged for never materialized? Because if it had, you wouldn't be where you are now. You wouldn't have grown the way you did. You wouldn't have discovered your strength in the same way. Closed doors didn't only protect you, they shaped you. There's a certain peace that comes when you stop seeing closed doors as failures and start seeing them as direction. You begin to walk with a deeper confidence, knowing that God is filtering out things that aren't meant for you. You start trusting that if something doesn't open, it's because there's something else, somewhere else, opening at the right time. You realize that God is too intentional, too precise, too loving to let you settle for less than what He planned. And think about this. You never have to force what's meant for you. A God-led opportunity doesn't require you to break yourself to obtain it. It doesn't require you to compromise your peace, your values, or your identity. When God opens a door, it comes with clarity, alignment, and a sense of ease that might still challenge you, but won't confuse you. It will stretch you, but it won't destroy you. It will elevate you, not diminish you. That's how you know the difference between a door you're forcing and a door God is opening. When you understand that closed doors are a form of divine protection, you stop grieving every ending as if it's final. You stop panicking when something slips out of your hands. You stop chasing things that are walking away. Instead, you start standing still long enough to feel God's hand redirecting you. You begin to recognize that if a door closed, it's because whatever was behind it wasn't meant to carry your destiny. So if you're facing a closed door right now, if something ended, if someone left, if a plan fell apart, don't allow your heart to sink into despair. Lift your head and remind yourself that God sees more than you do. He's not closing doors to punish you. He's closing doors to protect you, to guide you, to push you toward the place where your true blessing is waiting.